remember, solving a triangle means to find all the missing angles and sides of the triangle. So we're going to learn to solve a triangle applying the law of sines and finding the area of a triangle using side angle side. Law of sines can be used to solve non-right triangles. You can write it either way, the way I wrote on the left or the way I wrote on the right. If I take 2 fourths is equal to 1 half. If I flip them both over, 4 halves is equal to 2 over 1. And so if I write them A over sine A or sine A over A, doesn't really matter. They're going to be equal ratios. I believe this is a new formula for you. I don't remember, I mean, I couldn't find it in the geometry book, and I don't remember any place else you would have seen this. So finally, we're doing something that's totally new for you. When we use this, there will come a time when it isn't always accurate, because given certain situations, we may get 2 possible values. And so we'll have to be aware of when that mistake occurs and when and to watch for it so that we don't report wrong answers. Okay? We'll get to that. Just delete this. So, first example. We're looking for side of length n and side of length m. We have angles of our triangle, 112 degrees, 29 degrees. Obviously not a right triangle, right? Okay. And so if we apply the law of sines, okay, when I look at this, when I apply the law of sines, I look at this, I look at what I'm looking for. I'm looking for m, a side, and so it's just easier to solve if I put that m on top. And so I'm going to use this method. I'm going to say m over what?
Sine of 112.
Sine of 112 equals,
Sine 29 over 22 over.
there you
sine
go, 22 over sine of 29. And so to solve this, what do? I could. Or I could recognize my unknowns on top. And so to get rid of the divide, I multiply both sides by sine of 112. I could cross multiply. But the next step, I'm going to turn around and divide.
Yeah.
To get the m all by itself. So it's quicker just to do this. And now it's important, come on, it's important that when I do this, that I use my calculator and I don't break it up into chunks by finding one answer, rounding it off, use that rounded off value to find another answer. The higher level math you go into, the more your teacher's going to impress upon you. You don't want to use rounded values to find the answer you want. And so some of our problems throughout this semester are going to get long and messy. Okay? So we're going to do all of this, 22 times sine 112, and then we're going to divide that answer by sine 29. Now, remember, your calculators, almost every one of them, if not all of them, put that parenthesis there, right? If you don't end that parenthesis before you divide, you're not going to get the right answer. Because it's going to throw all of this division inside that angle, which isn't what you really wanted to do, is it? So make sure you end that parenthesis. do this correctly, we should get 42.1. Okay? If they don't tell me where to round, I typically round to the tenths. Okay? The scientific rule, the rule you're probably given in science is you always round to the least accurate number. And so since our 22 is a whole number, we would round this to 42.
So let's see.
Because the greatest possible error here would be 0.5. And so it wouldn't make sense to round this one off to a number that would have a greatest possible error of 0.05. Okay, but we're not really following that rule. They haven't told us to follow that rule. We're just rounding to wherever it's comfortable. If they tell you where to round, then it's easy. You do what they say. All right, we need to find n yet. So we'll set it up over.
The angle's pretty easy to find because you can find the angle and
No, you have to find, you gotta find angle and you can't do factors here.
well, angle and
Yeah,
sure.
except for 1 close 29.
Yeah, so 39.
Okay. I'm hearing some good discussion. What are you saying?
You just subtract
Well,
the two other angles
yeah.
from 180 and then the remainder.
Okay, so you recognize that n is opposite of this unknown. And we have to know that in order to use law of sines, right? And so I'm hearing you say, let's subtract the sum of these two from 180. So what is that, 141?
39.
So this is going to be 39 degrees. And so how do I set it up?
22 over sine 29
22 over sine 29.
equals n over sine 39.
Okay? And so you use the philosophy that I used in the first one, right, Garrett? That we'll put our unknown on top so it's easier to solve. Less steps. Okay? That's why I take time to show you that you can write it both ways, because you know you're all pretty intelligent math students, and we want to, you know, the less steps we make, the less mistakes we'll make, right? I mean, that's just human nature. And so we're going to multiply both sides by sine 39. And so I'm going to say 22 times sine 39 over sine 29. And again, if that's in parentheses, you have to end it before you divide. Now listen carefully this time as you tell me the correct answer. 28.6, does anybody agree with that?
Closer to the point, I just go with
Did you get it, Bree? Did you, is your calculator in the right mode? Okay. All right, so finding area using side angle side. Okay. We're used to using a capital A for area, but also we're heavily into using capital A for the vertex of a triangle, right? Angle A. And so, of course, then I give you an example where we have K for an angle.
a triangle.
Let me pause this while you copy it down. So, you notice I have this area formula written 3 times. Let me actually get a marker here. I have it written 3 times, once, twice, 3 times, depending on the angle we're looking at. But they always say the same thing. Okay? The area is equal to 1/2 times 2 sides times the sine of the angle between those 2 sides. So these are going from this triangle up here. And so if I have A and B, then the angle between them is
C.
C. If I'm using A and C, then the angle between them is B. And if I'm using B and C, then the angle between them is A. So even though I've written it 3 times, it's really only one rule, which says the area of a triangle, a non-right triangle, is equal to half the product of 2 sides times the sine of the angle included, meaning the angle between those 2 sides. Okay? All right, so in this example, we want to find the area. Okay? Can we just plug this information in and go? Kinda. What do we have to do?
Find AB and angle C.
You just have to find another side.
We have to find another side, right?
Yeah.
I only have one side, and all of these rules require 2 sides. Okay? And so to find another side, I could use the law of sine, right?
Sure.
And if I choose to take this side here, if I choose to take that side, I'm going to be better off. That's where our law of sines comes in to be a potential problem. And if you always use the biggest side and the biggest angle, then we won't run into that problem. We run into that potential problem when we're using shorter sides and the longest side's not being used. Okay, so if I apply this, I'm going to say, let's just call this x. I'm going to say x over, oh my goodness, it's really slow today. Sine of 111.1 equals
Are you trying to find J or?
47.5 over, what's that angle?
41.6.
Sine of 41.6. How do we find that in case we lost somebody?
You have to
Added the 2 angles and
take it out and then
took it from 180, or subtracted from 180, right? And so x is going to equal 47.5 times sine of 111.1 divided by sine of 41.6. Okay? Now here's a potential rounding problem. Is that the answer we want?
No.
No. Something we need to have to get the answer we want, right? But not what we're looking for. And so let's not worry about solving that yet. Let's set this up. We need to find this area. We can say K is our area equals 1/2 of 47.5 times x times sine of 27.3, right? The angle between them. So do you agree with that? Okay. So if I had all of this done in my calculator, what would I have to do then to get the answer I want?
I guess you just do order of operations.
I'm going to plug that in, right? So if I had already done that, then I need to times it by 47.5, times it by 0.5, and times it by sine of 27.3. Okay? So I'm going to take all of this jumbled mess and I'm going to plug it in for x. So they have no rounding error. I'm not going to round that off first. So let's make sure we can do that on our calculator. We should all be doing that on our calculator. Do you not have a calculator? You should grab one. Where's your calculator?
Fair enough.
Yeah, because I want you to do this on your calculator.
Okay, can I borrow that calculator? It's like, can we do this?
Would you say it one more time, please? 727.1. Since I didn't put a unit on there, we are talking area, so we should say units squared. Okay? Any questions? That's it. Yep. Monday I will give you an assignment on this. So the only homework you have over the weekend is what you don't have done. That you should have done.
Are you happy?
Stop touching me.
You're the first